Welcome everybody to Mud Flood was Armageddon. Mud Flood was Armageddon special edition with Vara. Now he would. Hey man.
Yeah, I'll put it bigger.
Okay, we'll
Hey
put him in
everybody,
there.
I got a surprise for
He
y'all.
he made some thumbnails, and believe me, whatever he's got has got to be a lot more lighthearted than what I got going on here today. Because it's
Yeah, look at all this and see if you see yourself. It got
oh
it
man, it's
got
like
Alan
looking
right
in a
on
mirror.
everyone.
It's like looking in a mirror. Where are you though?
Well, I guess I'm supposed to be this one.
Oh, you're the. Oh, that's you. That's you in like 15 years.
Yeah, I guess. And it was really hard to get Randy in all of this. This looks so good.
Yeah, we gotta look like brothers. Hi, Marcella. These are some thumbnails. Now that looks more like you.
You like this one?
Yeah, I like that one a lot. I like that one a lot too. These are so good. You didn't make these with the artificial intelligence,
Yeah, I
did
did. Look at this. This almost says Mud Flood Bible there.
you? Wait until you see what this is, what this whole show. There's a
This is the
graph
best
on.
one.
There's a graph on Randy's head.
Yeah, this is the best one I got where I got like myself with brown hair and I got you and then I got Randy who's bald and doesn't have any facial hair, but for
Here's the
some odd
thing, though,
reason they
man.
added this.
I've got to keep. I've got to quit getting my hair so short, and it's not a big deal. But I am not bald.
Yeah. Well, this is supposed to be
You
Randy
know,
again.
because here's the
Not
thing.
perfect.
You want to know the uh what is it going to be like when you get old? How are you going to be a bald person? Now, when you're 30 years old, you will have half as much hair when you're age 65. Now, I'm the living proof of that. You know, I still got hair that Donald Trump would kill for.
Oh, you still got something
You
there.
know, when it's all right there, and I could do the whole Kenny G thing, flop my hair out there and go like, look at my hair. But the idea is to try to keep it, somewhat like a little bit short and things like that. Wait, I'm very anxious though. Thank you for making those. And RJ, his summers are busy with the grandchildren, and him and his wife are in charge of like a major fiefdom of not only the village but the family, and they're that old school family crap. Wait till you see what we got going here today, man. Where's
Let's
the?
go.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, we'll start with the pictures. I've got some on the desktop that are brand new. Here I go, riding down the highway on my mini bike that I really like, my new mini bike. I hit the brakes. Why? Because I saw a rock, man. Look at that.
Mhm.
This thing goes up to my sternum, my chest maybe. It's a big rock. And it's hollow. It goes all the way through, like one of those things you'd study in Egypt, and they go like, look, they drilled the rock all the way through it. And that's 3 feet with a dip and a turn. It's barely perceivable in this picture, but it's there. So
And
there,
they did all this with rocks and hammers.
no, it's natural body part. And
I
so,
know, but that's what the archaeologists say.
yeah, this is the other side of it. It's like I can't wait for to have RJ put something in a comment because this is like one of the favorites. Was there one
Well,
more?
what body part is that then?
I
Colon?
don't know. I
A
need to
butthole?
go back, but I felt like I was trespassing because I was trespassing. This was an ornament on the main side of the good part of town of what you'd call in our little small university town. And I didn't want them to come out and go like, "What are you doing in my yard?" So I just quick took these 4 pictures. I'm going to go back and leave a note in the hole saying, "Look, I'm coming here with the camera and I'm going to be here for 15 minutes doing the whole thing. If you got a problem with that, please don't kill me," or something. But so that's the way it's going to start, huh? Yep, that's the way it's going to start. Then we're going to go to the downloads to show the pictures that I have like previewed on these tabs I'll be closing, because here's what I've been thinking about. This is not the 153 fish that were caught, in the perfect number. Nets didn't break. These are 153 Vesicapices in the triangle thing. And I thought I would gather something about the banding that I see in rocks and the colors of the dip, but I didn't really get anything. So it seemed like I would just show that, the 153 is a big deal. Uh,
What
you
are
know,
we looking at basically?
these are, if you build a pyramid going down, because, right now I want this to wash over you because I didn't choose like number 33, and
I'm
or,
just wondering
or,
what I'm looking at.
or 153. We'll have to get to it later. These are just what might come up. Louis Pasteur, among biologists, rejecting spontaneous genesis is no longer controversial. Experiments conducted by Pasteur, that's at the late 1800s by that time, and others were thought to have refuted the conventional notion of spontaneous generation by the mid 1800s, since all life appears to have evolved from a single form approximately 4 billion years ago. Attention has thus turned to the origin of life. I guess that's supposed to be important for whatever. In 1906, a renowned German scientist traveled to East Africa with his wife and assistants to try to find a, in quotes, cure for the disease. It's a sleeping sickness. He set up a sleeping sick, in quote, concentration camp for East Africans and started to, in quotes, treat them with epoxyl, a reagent, a detergent, a reaction, something that absorbs something so that you can either wash it away, test a reagent containing arsenic. Shit.
Damn.
Even though it was known to cause pain, blindness, and death. What? Jeez Louise. Thanks, renowned German scientist.
Good luck with that.
You vector-borne parasitic disease is more commonly started to appear, and it raised the alarm because the sleeping sickness made their slaves less productive, and that's why they did it. Not because like, oh no, the people have a sleeping sickness. That was not why they did it. It was like, oh no, we can't even force them to work harder. Blue methane, methylene blue. That's a reagent. It's a reaction of the living nerve substance. This was almost your thumbnail. Was this the thumbnail? The purpose of pharmacology should be to determine not just if, but why a particular poison affects a particular nerve terminal apparatus. This is from the logical, zoological magazine, I believe, from 1887, paragraph 6, page 2. So it must be a book translated in 2020. So we finally know that Von Professor Dr. P. Urlich got this whole methylene blue. And you know what's holding them back? Their study of it is not possible at that time because that would deviate from the path that has so far been pursued rather one-sidedly, which was first do no harm. Laura, you've heard of that one, right? First do no harm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the whole Hippocratic oath. They've turned that Hippocratic oath into a Hippocratic monument of disaster. I guess this one says something about this is taken from this. The Lord leads me to these videos when I'm at that point of going like, what? I'm so tired of this other stuff. I should look at this. Why the world's first drugs ate your butt cheeks and turned you blue boppin' doo boppin' doo. What do you think of that title?
It's funny. I would be curious to see what it's trying to tell
Or
you.
here's what it says, like Dioscordes. For example, in the first century, this plant employed a drug made from autumn crocus. You try to pronounce that. I know. The autoluminate. It does.
Colchicum autumnale.
The very plant investigated by A.P. Dustin in 1938 as an anti-tumor agent. Well, shiver me timbers and call me shocked. Here we go again. Their major breakthroughs in the 1930s were Greek. They read a Greek book. Dioscordes recommended that the plant colchicum be soaked in wine and administered to dissolve tumors and growths.
Not yet making pus.
Pneumata, not yet making pus. The ones not making growth, they called it the spirit in Greek. That's the takeaway, I guess. That's what I'd take away. Beginning around what they call now the 1100s, because that's what the 12th century is, when supplies are imported, natural bitumen, this type of asphalt from the Persian mumaya, ran short. Mumaya was misinterpreted as mummy. That's their history. They're sticking to it. And the words, I almost was trying to fight saying worlds. The words meaning mummy expanded to a black resinous exudate scraped out from embalmed Egyptian mummies. That's a good job. I guess it pays well. This began a period of lucrative trade, this misunderstanding. They had a misunderstanding about a word, but it led to a lucrative trade between Europe. The suppliers substituted rare mumia exudate with entire mummies, either embalmed or desiccated. After Egypt banned the shipment of mummies, 500 years later, unscrupulous European apothecaries began to sell fraudulent mumia, prepared by embalming and dissecting fresh corpse. I wonder if the grave robbing that was going on was just for, we'll dissect them and sell them. Huh. Somebody here, Ambrosia Prévert, revealed the manufacture of fake mumeria both in France, where apothecaries would steal the bodies of executed criminals, dry them in an oven. That's gross.
Who's gonna buy that?
Artist bought it. There was actually a oil paint based acrylic called Mummy that was made from, they added the ingredients of mummies. Maybe we'll get to that. A perfect number. What is it? Is this the thumbnail? 1 plus 2, 2 times 3 is 6, you know. So it's the derivative. You can go however it equals back to 6. Has to go back to 6. 28 is 1, you know, you get these. There's perfect numbers. Maybe there's somebody here. If as many numbers as we please, beginning from a unit, be set out continuously in double proportion until the sum of all becomes a prime, and if the sum multiplied into the last makes some number, the product will be perfect. Okay, that's so old. Everybody's known that for a long time. I was fascinated by the micrometer again, you know, with how in the 1750s, all of a sudden, these showed up and they started making, you know, they went from making watches, which was magnificent enough with their detail, into going like, hey, let's step it up and start making windmills. Let's make water pumps to drain mines so we can go a mile deep and then or rebuild the locks. It all came from 1750s. This came from this around the 17 or the 1570s. I don't know. I just thought everybody would like to see another Mercator map. This is another Mercator map. Get your screenshots ready. Here you go. Whatever that is, screenshot. Magnus Finis.
Can I ask
Why
you a
would I do
question?
that? So that's my last stuff. So now we got to go through these tabs and check them out. What was that? So I had this deal yesterday where I'm trying to work it out where some of the classes in here at the university will, you know, maybe assign some of the people like, hey, let's try to make a graphic cartoon or comic out of Paco's book, you know, because I wrote this in 2008 and it talks about a virus that killed over 99.7. But also, these were survivors of a previous purge. And when they come out, you know, they're trying to release information slowly in a religious way. This seemed very much like a preview to the prophecies that came later in my life. I have it up because I had to send it to someone. I did some gematria. I looked it up. Somebody said, like, what's the gematria? So I did a gematria on my name. Cody, Roku channel.
The Anointed One.
April 18th, picture cardiac arrest. OD in the All Father submarine. Piniaries, very interesting. I looked it up. It says anal sex.
I was just gonna say.
Firstborn, alphanumeric. CB don't like being tickled. But by the, you know, it just goes crazy the further it goes, but then there's like a million pages. So I don't know. I'm new to Gematria. I'm not going to do it.
It's interesting though.
So I did look up peniaries.
Greetings and welcome to my new calculus channel. So in the previous 2 or 3 videos, I talked about tangents.
Can you hear it?
And
yeah.
I'm now going to show you that the ancient geometer Apollonius of Perga
I got to show my disclaimer.
Defined the tangent with respect to the conics. Okay, in other words, he defined the main property of a tangent line.
That's
since
funny
it was already previously defined in Euclid's conics, which were lost somewhere along the line. Okay, so why is this important? It's important because it shows us that the idiots of mainstream academics
I just think I appreciate his
try to redefine
this for this bum Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz, who basically, you know, I've always run down how these modern mathematicians fake building a nuclear bomb so that we can always, but whenever you run across a PhD with a big head and a massive ego like this guy who can back it up by, I mean, he really did prove. I had dismissed Apollonius like everybody else because I was told to. Look at that, the imbeciles of mainstream math. How do you not love this guy?
Tangent cuts a curve in 2 points, infinitely close,
Can
which
you hear it?
is just absolute dribble.
I can barely hear it.
And try to redefine this important concept of the tangent line in terms of the bullshit of mainstream mathematics academia, which is, you know, the understanding that every number corresponds to a line, to a point on a number line. So we're going to see now how to understand this in terms of the way Apollonius understood it. And
I'm going to try to sum it up because he's boring. So Wikipedia Moronica, I just love that, claims they have dismissed the definition of Apollonius in favor of that bum, one of those German scientists like Einstein that's going to prove, you know, this is how you can make a nuclear bomb, who claimed that a tangent cuts a curve in 2 points that are infinitely close.
What?
Is there such a thing? And to me, that's like Schrodinger's cat. You got to believe he's dead and alive, or you're out of string theory. You're obviously the emperor wears no clothes, and you're too stupid to see he's not naked. That's a good one. Someone should make a short out of that one. Do we want to hear any more of this guy? Because he basically, here's his proof.
A parallel to the axis or the diameter of the parabola, it will intersect this chord. Okay, that's what it means. That's the first proposition.
Okay, they're dropping like flies. Nobody wants to hear math or a parabola. That's like a parabolaba ding dong. I looked up this, but of course that's not what I wanted. This was set. Doggone it! This was set where he was about to say something. Now I have to try to remember, because this is the guy. He's nerd, and he is totally into science, and he has decided because he's smart he can make a living, but he has to accept dark energy. So this, what is it leads to? He's probably going to be.
But regardless, we can talk about how it behaves in a sort of model agnostic way. And strangely, even though it behaves like something with positive energy,
can you hear it?
It still has negative gravity. Let me explain. Unlike normal matter, which is clumpy, a feature of dark energy is that it seems to be uniform throughout all of space. One way we know this is because the universe seems to be expanding equally in all directions. In fact, one of the potential explanations for dark energy is that it's a feature of the vacuum of space itself. Perhaps it's just the energy associated with the ground state of the quantum fields that permeate our universe, for example. Regardless, it seems to be the case that for every cubic meter of space, you have the same amount of dark energy.
They just don't know.
I'll be honest, at this point, we pretty much have no idea what dark energy is. It's just the name we give to the phenomenon that drives the acceleration.
What?
At this point, we pretty much have no idea what dark energy is. It's just the name we give to the phenomenon that drives the accelerating expansion of our universe. And we can rule out some ideas of what dark energy might be, but there's still a lot of mystery. But regardless,
they have more faith, you know.
That's like the point. That's the thing there. Like, who cares then? If you have no idea what it is and you're just
and you can't
throwing out bullshit theories and trying to look smart.
You can't make nuclear weapons without it.
The fundamental geometric property of the universe. And if that's the case, then it should respect the geometric symmetry of our universe. Namely, it should be Lorentz invariant. But the only geometric invariant that can play the role of a stress energy...
Okay, I think that was a mispronunciation of the guy's name, who the other guy called the bum. You're done.
An all-metal lathe he made in 1751. Now, this is not just any lathe, but possibly the first all-metal lathe with dual V-ways and a carriage and cross-slide driven by screws.
Wow, so the first lathe that came out in 1751, which I don't want to get into the scientific difficulties of maintaining a straight, flat, guaranteed edge. But when you got this many, all of a sudden you come out the gate with, we'll get into a little bit of Vukasan, but that's a lot to swallow, eh?
I'm interested in this machine. What the hell is this?
Yeah, it's just like, here, guess what I made?
With this simple-looking machine, it said that Vukasan defined the principles of the modern lathe as we know it today. Okay, cool. Why should I care, I hear you say? Because lathes are, in my opinion, the foundation of the greatest explosion of wealth we've ever seen.
What?
And a
Money
big part
again,
of the story
huh?
about why we're all not working in a field somewhere. Unless that's your thing, which is totally cool.
This wouldn't be one of my videos if it wasn't about, like, they all did it for money.
If you're not familiar with lathes, they spin the workpiece and a cutting tool held in a sliding carriage can shape them, often to make them very accurately round to a specific diameter, but also very smooth. You need very round, smooth parts for machinery. But if you didn't have a lathe to make round parts, it'd be practically impossible to do it by hand.
I could watch
which is
this
surely added another decimal place in precision at least.
Ooh.
And every time you can
this
add
gets into a little bit of detail, but super important.
Put together with the cross slide that held the cutting tool that can move in and out very precisely, we have a very modern looking lathe. There's even what looks like an early tool bit insert. When Vukasan was the inspector for silk factories in Lyon, he realized he needed improved rollers for their mills.
What's this cutting tool you're talking about?
It's just carbide, that you mount into a firm and stable location that will cut the other metal.
In 1751?
51, yeah.
Early tool bit insert.
I want to show this one picture. If you'll notice here, here's Vukasan's workshop. He's in a star form, baby. But look at it, they got a wood-burning stove with this obviously was not part of the star fort. This is their addition to keep warm in the winter, Come on now, people. Smile on your brother. There's something there.
When Vukasan was the inspector for silk factories in Lyon, he realized he needed improved rollers for their mills. The heavy copper rollers were used to crush the silk and give it the moire pattern that was popular.
Yeah, that was popular, so you found a way to do it.
At the time. These rollers were made of copper, and there was no way the wooden lathes of the day could turn them accurately. So
anyway, he did the first one, and then he did this one, and it fell into making the money. Give us the graft, or we're going to go crazy.
Invented this machine. This lathe surely added another decimal place in precision at least. And every time you can add another decimal place, you can kick off huge changes. Let me show you what I mean. Back to the graph from the beginning. This is a chart of worldwide per capita income. From year 0 until the 1800s, the line is pretty flat with almost no growth. You can actually send that flat line back about another 5,000 years to the point where humans invented farming. So for about 7,000 years, income was about $400 to $550 per person per year in constant $1990 worldwide.
Too many numbers.
Even as
can have wrong hypotheses. What does this have to do with chemotherapy? Well, another insight by Ehrlich was Invo Staining. In this case, nerve cells of frogs with the dye Methylene Blue. This confirmed that chemicals could interact with specific parts of cells in living organisms as well. You can see that he was eager to advance the field, wondering about the mechanisms of these differential interactions. After more research, he postulated that chemicals and antibodies can selectively target pathogens or disease rather than healthy cells. He later coined the term of magic bullets, which he's quite famous for.
All right. I'm not going to close that video. So I ended up looking for von Polyuric, because if you look for Polyuric, you get this guy here. No. Didn't I get that guy opened up, or was I just going to do it like that? You get this guy. he's enough of a, he was born in 32. Somehow I think he's in a family where he'll be listened to. He's the one who started all the population studies at Stanford. Population growth, famine, resource depletion, famous for the 1968. Oh no, we have too many people, way too many people. Going to have to start getting, various forms of coercion, such as eliminating tax benefits for having additional children. Well, they kind of won that argument, I think. Had to worry about climate change, get that. Maybe they knew it was coming. Maybe people don't want to believe something happened. But what we really wanted to get, I think, was Vaughn. This guy. He's the guy that did the concentration camps. Nobel Prize winning. Chemotherapy. He did, gram sampling. That's a big deal. Finding a cure for syphilis. That was a big deal. Discovered compound 606. Huh. Whew. Something about that relapsing disease in Africa. A lot of things going on with this guy here, the father of immunology. Way to go. The typical thing, studied, he studied at Jesuit school, or, it's your typical stuff. Robert Koch. I think these are like the Koch brothers that are in the John Birch Society, still running things behind the scenes as they did this, signed the manifesto of the 93, which was a defense of Germany's World War I politics and militarism. That was in 1914. Okay. So, along with the whole civilized world, they mourned the death because he cured diseases, and it's what they said. And to do it, I think this is the guy that brought out, look, we can't do that first do no harm thing anymore. This has got to change. And you're not going to come up with, he discovered the anthrax, and a lot of these other things introduced. And, that seems to be when they brought in World War I, here, let's put mustard gas and nerve gas and things in shells. And they had to have invented them and studied them. I guess there was a little bit of a scandal. We'll look at that. First works on immunity, followed by investigation on the inheritance of acquired immunity, which was already known that in some cases after smallpox or syphilis infections, specific immunity was transmitted from the parents to their offspring. Ehrlich rejected inheritance in the genetic sense because the offspring of a male mouse immunized against abrin and an untreated female mouse were not immune. Okay. All right. So, but it all came down to where is it going to get into the, let's see, there's the methylene blue. Might as well hit that for a second. He came across methylene blue. Now, based on since this is fairly rare, I think what I'll do is change my screen to show some methylene blue. What I believe is methylene blue. That would be methylene blue. In a stone, in a rock, in a reflection, rocking on here. Polyuric.
Really cool.
Yeah. Super cool.
Given we will talk about Methylene Blue now, we should first check out its synthesis. This was one of the first key products of the emerging dye industry.
Now, BAS emerged unharmed, and no charge against them. Everything they did and stock people bought in their company, even up and through World War II, was all paid off. They didn't have to go to the Nuremberg trials. This company did fine with their studies.
Synthesized by the German chemist Caro at BASF. This is still the largest chemical producer in the world. There would be quite a lot of history to unpack, but let's instead just check out the original synthesis from 1876. From dimethyl-aniline, it's just 3 steps. So it should be an easy task for you to predict the mechanism, right? The first conditions might remind you of diazonium synthesis.
Anyway, I just want you to think in your mind, this has got to be like, hey, I showed up with a lathe in 1751. Let's do anything you want.
Within a few days, fevers calmed down and pathogens cleared from the blood. This was the very first synthetic, rather than natural compound ever used in clinical therapy, marking the advent of chemotherapy. As Ehrlich put it, of course, this means that the urine, full of excess methylene blue, you guessed it, turned blue as well. In feces, the compound is excreted in its reduced state. This leucoform is colorless due to the absence of the conjugate.
I'm going to trust him on that. I don't want to see any blue poo.
I don't want to see any blue urine. I pissed blood before, so that was scary enough.
Right. So the deal, let me just see, his first works on immunity. This is quite a long situation here. So he got some, I think they know, because some type of vaccine probably would work. I think they have, in conspiracy world, some people think they have good vaccines and bad vaccines. But everybody, Wilhelm II, he's in on it. Everybody's in on it. Cancer research. And with the fact that right now, 1 out of 3 people die with some form of cancer, or it's crazy. But, supposedly he gets credit for chemotherapy and the need of the organism for oxygen, which is why, quack medical influenced people like me say, some people teach that oxygen rich blood prevents cancer and silver in your blood and things like that. Again, with the methane blue. But when did he take it to Africa? Because beginning in 1906, they started studying this massively painful drug to take. And they needed a place to do it. So they ended up going to Africa looking for the magic bullet. And as you read earlier, they had concentration camps that they set up to study the people and the effects of that drug. So we'll close that. What they were using was, tuberculin. And people still do these tuberculin skin tests, to see, like they'll do whole patterns all over their back and things like that. But again, back to Robert Koch, who I think may be mysteriously hooked up with the John Birch Society. Did not result in the anticipated reduction of death, but they kept studying glycerin. They were studying while I was stuttering. Hilda Clark got in on it. There's a woman involved in there, humanitarian aid. People studying vaccines since the 1890s, moving into World War II. We do know that this guy got into the Order of the Red Eagle, and not a lot of citations in this one that Until the time, the only effective remedy for an infectious disease was quinine, which was used to treat malaria. Citation needed. Citation needed. Wow, normally you you get more than enough citation. So this was the active compound in it, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug. Well, that's what they call Prozac, right? Or that's what that's what they call ibuprofen. The earliest synthetic medicine when it was patented. Wow. Okay. So there you go. That's the first one, but not sure it helped as much as they had hoped. This guy, Robert Koch, became the director. Ooh, I got to keep my elbow lower. For the infectious disease, which consisted of a clinical division of beds for the Division of Clinical Research. The Prussian military insisted after the 1890 scandal with tuberculin, which he had discovered and intended as a remedy for tuberculosis, that any of Koch's inventions would be unconditionally belong to the government and he would not be compensated. Koch lost the right to apply for patent protection. In 1906, he moved to East Africa to research a cure for sleeping sickness, trypanosomosis. Wow. He's the one who used that information that established a research camp. I think that some people called it a concentration camp where up to 1,000 people a day were treated with an experimental drug. Hey, thanks Wikipedia for underselling something that was just absolutely hideous compared to, when you don't want to look at it always from the Wikipedia. And looking at this article here, I think I even had the whole thing to download free here, but we'll just look at the introduction. 1897, the most important scientific papers published in English. Thomas Brock's landmark biography was published the following year. It remains the only substantial biography of that famous person printed in English. Okay, so let's go over it. Born in 1843, graduated with honors in 1886, visited the great scientific research deal. Germ theory, as now was being hotly debated, the role of bacteria and bacteriophage was yet unknown in contagious disease, was uncertain.
Still is.
Anthrax, he developed that. Go ahead, Vara.
It still is a theory, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what we think, but we're not doctors. But I guess they still call it a theory, so be hard to argue with you on that one.
Yeah. I mean, it's 2024, man. It's like we know that it's possible that viruses are not what they're, telling us it is.
Or that they even know. But we know that
they think they know.
1876, when this guy Koch was only 32 years old, the golden age of bacteriology and its impact on medicine had begun. So we have that from the situation, and he got this. There's this one thing in there. His wife bought him a microscope, so he decided, I'll just start a business, and he did, and he discovered all of these different things. Poland. Give me 2 more seconds to see if. Let's see. Oh, here we go. There's a divorce in the situation. That figures. They're always got time for that. Let's see what else we have without bogging down here. Spontaneous generation. Frogs were believed by the Greeks to have generated in the mud. Mice were believed by the Greeks to become pregnant through the act of licking salt. These people that we love, they thought Barnacle Goose were thought to have emerged from crustaceans. The goose barnacle myth. Widely reported historical misconception about the breeding habits of barnacle goose and the brant goose. Licking salt. Bookworms generated from excessive wind. Anyway, we got that. What is it anyway? Who thought it was cool? It is a superseded scientific theory. At one time, everybody believed in it. They all thought that, it was hypothesized that, fleas could do these things. And I guess it took up until the mid 1800s to say, no, you guys are just dumb. So in the 5th and 6th centuries, before this age of Christ that they call the Common Era, early Greek philosophers in antiquity attempted to give natural explanations of phenomena that have been previously ascribed to the agency of the Elohim. Anaximander, who believed that all things arose from the elemental nature of the universe, the apeiron, or the unbounded or infinite, was likely the first Western thinker to propose that life developed spontaneously from non-living matter. I don't know if that's a big bang or a creation, or in the beginning that was the word, but they were thinking about it, and Aristotle, and they came up with and stuck with spontaneous generation for a long time. Basic theory of everybody's favorite, Greek thought, because he knew about democracy and republicanism. His basic theory of sexual reproduction contended that the male seed imposed form, the set of characteristics passed down to offspring on the matter, in parentheses, which was menstrual blood, supplied by the female. I don't know if he didn't know about the ovaries or whatever, but thus female menstrual blood matter is the material cause. And yet, they knew everything, that the earth wasn't flat, that you could just sacrifice your children. Vital heat was the pneuma, the spirit. I'm just saying it's time to, put it, they won, right? They had this guy, here's the frog muscle, supposedly in a glass syringe with a nerve protruding from a hole. And then allegedly back in the day, they'd irritate their nerve, but the level of water didn't change. And thus, they could say the volume didn't change. But this is a living nerve. This is how you get a living nerve out of a body. Stretch it out in a syringe, agitate this, and then it swells. Why would it be activating just sitting in a syringe of water? And yet they want us to believe, these guys did it. They figured it out. And based on their studies, like with the atomic bomb, just a little bit of here, there you go. And we got it figured out. Although he may not have been as bad as some of the other ones. He did try to, I don't know. How can you say who's the good guy, who's the bad guy? I found this one book to read. I don't know if I read it or not. I just knew I had to close tabs. So I guess I found this thing from Al Jazeera. It was on that. And it says, when Africa was a German laboratory, Western scientists transformed Africa into a living. Okay, this is the other side of the story from Wikipedia about that sleeping sickness. All right. At the turn of the 1900s, the sleeping sickness was starting in Africa, and that was going to slow down the workforce, and subsequently they wouldn't make as much money. So they sent a man to treat them, and they have it in quotes, with that drug, Actazol, a cleansing arsenic agent, caused pain, blindness, and even death. Wow. Today's legacy, he lives on in Germany. The city of Berlin is full of plaques, monuments heralding what, yay, they finally gave up on that first do no harm, and they like testing makeup on dogs and other animals. People say, well, they're just animals. Okay, well, that's what they said about these black people too. So they did it, man. They did it. And then everything you know about it in high school, and even down to the people that we trusted when they said you need to stand this far apart when you're wearing a mask. We asked no questions. But he set up and ran medical concentration camps in East Africa, causing immeasurable pain and suffering. But that's what the colonists did, because we didn't want them to slow down their work. He embarked on his expedition to East Africa. His main task was to test these remedies, many of them containing poisonous substances like arsenics, on humans. It's hard to determine whether his primary concern was to cure East Africans suffering from this horrible disease, or use them as guinea pigs to ascertain the efficiency of remedies that can also be used in the treatment of other illnesses widely affecting Europeans. Or, if you have a more suspicious mind, how to give other people this disease and kill them on the battlefield. So it goes through some horrible, dehumanizing ways that they watched them die. And he concludes by going, he was a brilliant scientist, and he likely genuinely wanted to cure it, but he just didn't give a shit how he did it. Closing that one out. Population bomb. Watch out. Oh no. What else did I get here? The Yazoo lands fraud. Okay. We'll touch on that. I'll close it out. The Yazoo land sales for new companies were formed. George, there they are. They were headed up by a very secretive, if we didn't find out about the Yazoo land swindle, we wouldn't have known about the existence of the Combined Society, which was also exposed in 1792. A secret society that was so secret they didn't even want the other secret societies to know they existed, because they were cheating them. And so big land frauds, everybody's involved. Burnt all the copies of it except the one that had been sent to George Washington. Yeah, he was in on it. So we're all the early presidents of the United States, because there was a lot going on when we had France, England, and Spain here, and the United States going like, no, we want to be our own country. Sure, right. It was during that same period there was the Pine Barren speculation a little bit before. Can't go over it all right now, but when you look it up, in the early 1795s, all over Georgia, outraged citizens streamed from their homes, making their way to public meetings. A massacre is avoided only through the intervention of some of the lawmakers who had not sold their votes. So they're going to hang them. The people were in uproar. They found out everyone running the government from the 1776 on that this was all a land swindle, and it came down to with land grants and everything else. I'm not going to read that article, but the Pine Barren speculation is basically how we got started. Our government was started as a land swindle. We'll just go Montgomery County alone. Nice. Mudflood. They took over this many acres. 3 men received land grants, basically saying, we own all this. Probably, like think William Penn and these other people, The Yazoo scandal quickly overshadowed the Pine Barrens. But who was involved in this? I guess they don't mention some of the most famous, like Patrick Henry. But when you study those, you'll realize that somehow this is how Andrew Jackson, President Andrew Jackson, ends up being one of the co-founders of Memphis, Tennessee. He bought the futures to it in the 1790s when he was yet a mere young man. What else we got here? What is a land grant? It's a gift of real estate. Yeah. Okay. Doesn't matter who else owns it. Somebody else says, now you own it, and we'll enforce that for you. Excellent. Let's go over there and put them to work. So wouldn't hurt, because land grants for railways all of a sudden. Oh yeah. And where we're saying it all comes down to the eminent domain, and it's all over, Australia, New Zealand. We're free, but they can come and take the land anytime we want. I'm just closing these down. I had to clear my mind. I've been doing a lot of schoolwork. So it took a long time to get back to Jacques de Vaucanson, just mostly just referred to as Vaucanson. He made the duck that poops. Great French engineer, one of the significant inventors. He did that. Was it that long ago? Did you forget the first metal plane in 1751? He did it. He did it. All of a sudden, you're welcome, world. Here's a metal lathe you can make a bomb with or something. You can just make a bomb with it. He's famous. He showed the first. He did the first computers. That's what he's famous for. Self-moving physical machine containing many human-like computers which imitate the natural functions of several animals and humans by the action of fire, air, and water. Oh man, he had his own interest in replicating human anatomical forms, and he needed to build a lathe. So you're welcome, world. You would not have had the Industrial Revolution or Stockholm Syndrome without it. I almost felt like being one of those rappers and go, bitches, because we're all their bitches. These are computers that can play these machines, and he used this type of stuff. This type for the pooping duck. It looked calm on the top, but it was a storm of activity underneath to make him poopity doo dah. Where would we be without him? So even in the Wikipedia article, what do we know? Pooping duck. Studied under the Jesuits. Wouldn't he have to have? Wouldn't he have had to? Or we could just throw all our research away. Oh, the guy who invented the computer and all this other stuff and the first metal lathe that the Industrial Revolution started, he wasn't trained by the Jesuits. Oh, throw our theory out the window. But alas, there he is, studying with the Jesuits and everything else, pooping ducks, you name it, inventing chains. They have their notebooks out, Bar. They can write this down and study it later. I don't have to show them everything anyway. These pictures were boring. I kept this open because I thought there would be a couple of good ones, but this one was so small. That's a robot. So, but really, so he invented lathe. I would think it takes a metal lathe to do something like this, because they admit these granite pillars were turned with on a lathe. So this seems like way before 1751. They just like to leave us confused, I guess. Well, there's a lathe. Well, that's just a picture of, it might be like, wow, they're throwing in some camera obscura. There's that guy Jan Verberger, that guy again from the Woolrich Royal Brass Foundry, 47 out of 50 drawings. But wow, check it out. He's making a metal cannon. He's drilling out the middle of a metal cannon, a lathe cannon. What freaking year is this? After what, a couple of years? 1751, they got a metal lathe for like, oh, I need to make my pooping duck. Boom. How about a very highly polished and embossed brass cannon? We got a pretty big machine to lathe it on. Don't worry, pooping duck boy has the whole industrial revolution in his back pocket. Planned by the Jesuits. I'm against it. Blah, blah, blah. These guys on a measuring rod. So when you want to study the measuring rod in Wikipedia, they're going to end it on the measuring rod also appears in connection with the founding stone rites and revelation. There's not may appear, could appear. They're giving total. Oh my goodness. Anybody that's in the world and not on a narrow road might just read this to say, wow, we're right. And it's even in connection. Here's another proof. It's in the Bible. Well, they had a measuring, had a gold measuring rod. Well, he was, the wall of the city had 12 foundation stones. That's already had. There's nothing about a foundation stone rights being in connection here. This is already done deal waiting for them. And the one who spoke to me had a golden measuring rod to measure the gates and its cities and its walls. That's nothing to do with the founding stone. That is for no other reason is to put in here and glorify the Freemasons. But what else are you going to do? Because when you want to learn about the measuring rod, you realize, all right, back in the day, everybody had different types of measuring rods, but they were all super important to them. A lot of them were close, but they always didn't match. But they all had them, a lot of them, because just weights and measurements were important to a lot of people for obvious reasons. Nobody wants to be ripped off. Coiled rope in the coat of Hammurabi. I saved this when I was reading about Samuel. Closing out the tabs, though, of what I had opened here. So I ended up on this guy, John Bertram Phillips. So this was that guy who wrote the Bible the other day. And we were doing the griffin things. Did you hear that, Vara? What'd you think about these griffins? Ptolemy wrote that, they were a for sure thing.
Well, it's like one of the oldest symbols out there, So it's hard not to notice them and draw some conclusions on how it is. Like it's always tied to some satanic worship thing, and attaching it to all these organizations that we already know are doing bad and evil stuff. So, there's correlation there.
But as for it, being a real thing, it to me, it seems like we should start, going, like you just did, going like, dang, man, Vara, they had griffins.
Yeah.
Don't you kind of want
probably
one?
Made in a lab.
Are they all bad? You think? I mean, how would we know?
Yeah, if you look at, like, I heard an interesting theory back in the good old days, long time ago. I heard an interesting theory that wasps are not natural animals. They're actually a cross between ants and bees. And I thought about it. I'm like, that makes sense.
Wasp?
Or yellow jackets, whatever.
I know that wasps have some particularly unusual, the way they end up in figs to plant their seeds. Weird.
There's,
That looks like a
freaky
friendly.
looking things,
Yeah, I've
like
been bit by a
aliens.
few. But everybody was into it, right? Everybody was
Mhm.
into either the double-headed eagle or this, or both. They're all confused. It's an eagle. It's a phoenix. It's a griffin. Everybody wants to fight. Fight, fight, fight.
Well, it's just the beast, symbolizing the
Again,
evil.
look at that. That is some smoothly polished stuff, man. As an artist today, I just am so jealous of how hard you have to work to get inferior polish on stones today. I want their tools. I'm closing it. Here's another one. Oh, huh. RMP and griffins were historical images associated with the outlands of the North. A lot of people like to talk about the North. The father of history, Herodotus. Now, everything that we're supposed to know about history, Herodotus, Pliny, they act like these things, along with the griffins, were real. So they're saying that's real. The father of history, Herodotus and Pliny and these other guys, they write about these things as if they're real. That's weird. I just didn't want people to forget about that. They were described in what is this supposed to be, a good book? People like this one? Guess it's all we get from the histories of Herodotus. In this poem about he was wrapped in Baccharic fury. Wow. Closing that out. It's getting too scary, I guess. There's that map. That out there. What do we know about Zoroastrianism? You
I
ever
was
hear
gonna
of it?
look that up. Yeah,
Zoroastrianism?
you showed it in the giant stream, so I was gonna look it up
Yeah. Now
later.
the Zoroastrian cosmology, pretty much just like everyone else's back then. So these were Greeks, and he was, I think that a lot of Greeks in the Bible Persians were influenced by people in the Bible that God had divinely used Nebuchadnezzar to take over that city in a judgment, but save some of their smart people and let them know through the lion's den, through the fiery furnace, through marrying Queen Esther and saving the people, that the God of that people is not like the people, but there's some good ones among them, but for the most part, the God of the Hebrews was the one God that Zoroastrianism came to, and they had this book. It's they got a pretty good couple copies of it, and it's the concise view of the creation myth, the first battles of, now what they call the Most High God is Ahura Mazda. Let's see, is that going to be your creator God? Yeah, creator deity and God's guy, God's guy. And this one here, what's this? He's the bad. That's the devil. That's the Satan. So that's their version of Satan. And they had this going on, and so this was what was being taught by the people who showed up and asked King Herod where's the king that's going to be born that's going to, welcome in the whole world, welcome in the Gentiles? Where's the king of the whole, your king that's the king of the world? And Herod went, huh? What are you talking about? So they showed him in the scriptures, and instead of going like, wow, this is going to be great, Herod said, we should kill him. And so he tried to, and that's just crazy, right? Isn't that nuts?
No, it seems like every culture has their own stories of good versus evil, right? It's always the same story.
It's probably the same story, and everybody has to, that's why it's important, it's not going to be, what I'm worried about is that people think who don't trust the Bible, because the Bible would exclude this thought, that it's okay to show up in heaven and just go like, I knew something was up. Oh, it's because it's all about, it's so exclusive of which, think of the title. This is the dawning of the age of Aquavenging. Aquavenging is happening now for those not predestined or adopted into Christ's body. Now, that Aquavenging was prophesied by Do Re Mi on February 2nd to hit where the seat of Satan, the throne of Satan currently was, and it hit in Laurel Canyon, Hollywood Hills, Beverly Hills, where they have been putting out all this propaganda. And it has been unceasing flooding and drama. And this weekend, Vara, by the time we meet for our usual roundtable on Monday, thousands of people's families and cities will have been affected by Aquavenging, which is this judgment upon the world right now, which the days of like, look and see, isn't God blessing us all? Those days are over. This is a judgment where people have to make a decision. Am I going to trust? Is Christ called me to trust him or not? Go ahead, brother. You always get your time. I want you to always feel you should. And if I'm not giving you the time, remind me to.
Well, it's like, it's your show, man. And I always listen to everything you have to say, but you have so much to say, and there's a lot of different, parts to what you're saying that I would like to, that I would have a reaction to or a comment.
I always feel so sorry for RJ because, I'll ask him a question and then move on.
Yeah, you do that sometimes. You're like, so what do you think about blah, 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 blah.
Here I go. Yeah, watch this. I'm gonna just basically cut you off and go like, check this out. If I just search YouTube right now, there's probably this guy who's on his way to intercept some big storm, and he's a famous storm chaser. Did you ever see some of his more famous videos?
No.
This guy is amazing, man. I mean, he puts himself, wow, that was 15 years old. I'm looking for one of his more daring ones this year. He's been around for a long time ago. Okay, so this is 1 month ago. He had to take it into the ditch on this one, I think. He just gets right there on it, doesn't he?
Debris coming down! Deploy the subsonic soon! We get the best of it! Can I just throw it out the window or what? No, let's just wait. Whoa!
He doesn't know what to do.
Wow! Look at that!
He's stuck in a ditch.
Sure.
I think this is the one he's stuck in the ditch.
Oh my God! It's gonna hit those wood farms.
Oh shit!
Don't worry, they're pretty strong. They survive storms all the time. Oh, he's moving.
You know what's interesting about tornadoes? It's like the most calm, the most, you know, there's in the middle of the tornado, in the middle of the storm, is the most calm state.
It's like the vortex, the hurricane. It's you can't stop the water. And this guy, you know, let's see who's going live here. Who's live on the, you know, are there live storms? Because I know it's supposed to happen this weekend, and we've got
I had some
debate
clowns
coming up tonight too.
I had some clowns there too, Nephilim clowns. You don't think so?
Yeah, he's gonna. They got a show going here. The Nephilim are clowns. There's no biblical proof, but there's plenty of speculation. So, not much, you know.
It's like a running gag at this point on your show.
It's going to be a hard thing for him to prove that the Bible teaches that, because we know a lot of weird stuff is going on. I guess they can't get over this presidential debate thing that's going on. Wow, homicide at troubled youth camp? Oh no. Oh my goodness.
So you're not going to watch any of that debate?
You know, I was thinking about going live and commenting on it like they do on the Comedy Central channel, and just, you know, flash up my, you know, this is mockumentary or something like that. But
yeah, I'll probably watch some highlights.
what did you think about this? Is another big deal, you know?
Joe Biden's now gets to take credit for that, for prosecuting a journalist, putting him in Belmarsh, and making him admit to a crime he didn't commit. But here's the final insult: emergency appeal. So the jet that he flew, the United States government is making him pay for it.
$500 million.
What the hell?
Yeah, we flew you out of the. If it's America, love it or leave it. It'll cost you $500,000.
Welcome to the land of milk and honey.
You remember, you know, why people hated him, why they threw him in jail?
Well, only the, you know, bad guys, so to speak, seem to have hate for him. But yeah, I think it's a double-edged sword, Julian Assange at this point, or any journalist who's claiming to, you know, expose secrets and then, you know, be a character out there on the media who is being persecuted, and now he's let go, and everybody looks at him as a hero. We all know that the bad guys have total capability of eliminating anyone who they seem a threat to their hierarchical power structure.
A better way to look at it would be that somebody had to expose that the United States are not the good guys, and they're spying on even their friends, and they've tapped Andrea Merkel's phone, and she's their best friend, you know.
But who cares?
Right. And so all of a sudden everybody knows, and who cares? And the United States is going down. We're not going to recover from this $1 trillion debt. We've been exposed. We're no longer going to be a light on the hill. What they're selling is the world will be a better place without us. So they have now not the petrodollar, but the BRICS. Everything is in place for they do not need us as any place except for how are they going to recover from their next Great Depression, which is going to require, poison. I think it's going to require martial law. In their mind,
it's going to require chaos, because out of chaos you get order.
let's see what else I had here. Just to, if anything, what's this? Above top secret. The number 153 in the Vesica Pike. Hi, guys and gals. I recently was reading about the Vesica Pisces, and I thought I'd share with you. The Vesica Pisces is a shape that is the intersection of two circles with the same radius intersecting in such a way that the center of each circle lies on the circumference of the other. The name literally means the bladder of a fish. The mathematical ratio of the width of the Vesica Pisces is the height to its height is the square root of 3, or this number approximately. Since if straight lines are drawn connecting the centers of two circles with each others, which is what we call the magic circle, the 2 points where the circles intersect, 2 equilateral triangles join along the edge. We've all seen different, and you can double the 153 to get, there's different numbers. So there's something to this, and it goes back to, why did they use these rare perfect numbers and things, and is that a big deal that, when you take these numbers times, some other numbers that you get, these weird patterns. And I'm not, and 51 is far, is not a perfect number. As far as I know, none of these are.
It's all in the pie, man. That's all I'm gonna say.
And so we can barely make a straight edge, and we've figured out the bandwagon of what perfect numbers and perfect squares are. And then boom, we can go, wow, cool, whatever, different colors, different patterns. But in the long run, as we let it all wash over us, we have to say, there's something up. And for me, it's always going to be the Word of God became flesh and dwelt among us. And that at certain points in your life, there are people that are going to be one called, two chosen, faithful, adopted, and they're going to deliver to God trillions of pneuma lives that are going to live forever. And unless people have had that given experience that at one point in their life has them on their knees confessing they're unworthy of this and realizing that they're forgiven because this is the only way it was going to work out by a God who is perfect and in the long run is dealing with something that is beyond our comprehension. So that's my position. Anything you want to close with? Because I'm going to keep this about an hour and a half.
Well, I agree with the last part you said. God is perfect. And I won't say that about the Hebrew God of the Old Testament, and I'll be excited to get into more of that in the Bible Study Challenge.
So in the meantime, what we can do is watch out for the weather, be weather aware, don't drown, turn around, but don't feel comfortable if there's somebody with a gun pointing at you saying, if you don't turn around, you may drown, so I'm going to kill you right now. Because that's a crazy world we live in. This is a crazy world. It's a mud flood was Armageddon world. It's a flat earth nation with the golden age past. And me and my friend never going to tell you anything else. Why would we? We're trying to prove we have your best interest at heart. Amen. Hallelujah. Aloha. Arrivederci. Ciao. Sayonara. Auf Wiedersehen. Nakame. And hasta luego.